Hi, welcome to my channel. Story start by Champagne flutes sparkled under the warm glow of the string lights, casting a golden hue over the guests who had gathered to celebrate what was supposed to be a milestone in our lives. Laughter echoed from the corners of the room, blending with the gentle hum of soft jazz playing in the background. Everyone was smiling, toasting to us to our 10 years together. Everyone but me. I sat at the head of the long table, my hands steady despite the storm raging inside too. Anyone watching? I probably looked calm, even content, but my mind was a chaos of betrayal and heartbreak, because I knew I'd known for weeks, months even, that the woman I once called my world had been living a double life tonight, surrounded by friends and family. I was no longer willing to keep the secret. I let her think she had gotten away with it, that her affair was safely tucked away, behind lies and deceit. But now, under the soft glow of our carefully arranged anniversary celebration, the truth would come out. It wasn't supposed to be like this. For years I believed we were happy. Truly, deeply happy. She was the love of my life, the person I trusted above all others. We'd face challenges, of course. Like any couple, we'd weather job losses, health scares, the usual ups and downs of married life, but through it all, I thought we were a team, a united front against whatever life threw at us. That illusion started to crack several months ago. At first it was just a feeling, a vague sense that something was off. She started spending more time at the office, coming home later than usual, claiming she had to stay late for meetings or catch up on work. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to be the supportive husband who trusted his wife completely. So I pushed the doubts aside, telling myself that we all go through busy seasons, that things would settle down and she'd be back to her usual self. But then came the phone calls at odd hours and hushed tones. She'd step into another room, closing the door behind her, and emerge minutes later with a strange smile. When I asked who it was, she'd shrug it off, say it was a coworker or a client. And the texts, those constant, unrelenting messages that seemed to light up her phone every few minutes. She'd glance at them quickly, her expression carefully neutral, then tuck her phone away as if nothing had happened. I tried to ignore it. I tried to convince myself that I was imagining things, that the woman I loved couldn't possibly be betraying me. But the signs were impossible to ignore. She'd stopped looking at me the way she used to, stopped reaching for my hand when we walked side by side. Her laughter was different, forced, as if she was playing a part she didn't quite believe in anymore. The breaking point came when I found their seat. It was tucked into her purse, half crumpled as if she'd forgotten. It was there, a romantic dinner for two at a restaurant we hadn't visited in years, on a night she'd claimed to be working late. My heart sank as I stared at the date, the amount, the items ordered. It was all so painfully clear. The love notes she once left for me were now being whispered into someone else's ear. I confronted her that night. She denied it at first, then deflected, then finally admitted it in a rush of tears and half-hearted apologies. It didn't mean anything, she said, as if those words could ease the pain. It's over now. I made a mistake. But it wasn't just a mistake. It was a choice, a deliberate, calculated choice to betray the trust we had built over a decade. I didn't know if I could forgive her, if I could ever look at her the same way again. I told her I needed time to think, that I couldn't make any decisions. In the heat of the moment, she agreed, desperate to salvage what was left of our marriage. In the weeks that followed, I tried to act normal. I went through the motions, attending social events, smiling at her jokes, pretending we were still the perfect couple everyone believed us to be. But inside, I was unraveling. I couldn't stop replaying her confession. Couldn't stop imagining her with him. Couldn't stop wondering how many lies she had told, and how many moments I had missed. When our anniversary approached, she suggested a big party. Let's make it special, she said, her voice full of forced enthusiasm. We've been through a rough patch, but this is our chance to show everyone that we're still strong. I wanted to say no, to cancel the whole thing, to tell her that I couldn't stomach the idea of celebrating a marriage that felt like a hollow shell. But then I realized something. This party wasn't just about, there was my chance to reclaim the narrative, to stop pretending, to face the truth head on. If she wanted a celebration, she would get one, but it wouldn't end the way she hoped so. Agreed, I smiled and nodded at help it plan. The menu, the decorations, the guest list. I played my part perfectly, letting her believe I was on board, and on the night of the party, I put on my best suit, poured myself a drink, and prepared to lay it all bare when the time came to speak. I stood at the head of the table. The room went quiet. The murmured conversations fading into an expectant silence. My wife sat next to me. Her face radiant, her smile wide as she raised her glass. The sight of her laughing and chatting as though nothing had happened made my stomach turn. But I kept my composure, kept my voice steady as I prepared to say the words that would change everything. Thank you all for coming tonight. I began, my voice carried through the room. Calm and measured, it means so much to have you here, to celebrate what should be a joyous occasion. I looked at each of our friends, at our family members, their faces lit with the soft glow of the candles. Then I turned to her, my wife, and held her gaze. But before we go any further, I have something to say, something I can't keep inside any longer. Her smile faltered, her glass hovering just above the table. She knew I saw it in her eyes. The flicker of panic, the realization that her carefully constructed facade was about to crumble. I almost hesitated, almost backed down. But then I thought of the months I'd spent in agony, the nights I lay awake replaying her lies, the betrayal that had torn through me like a storm. This was my moment, my chance to take back my dignity. For 10 years I thought we had something unbreakable. I said, my voice growing stronger. I thought we were building a life together, creating something real and lasting. But the truth is, the foundation of our marriage was cracked, and tonight I need to acknowledge that he felt the room shift. The weight of my words hung heavy in the air. People exchanged glances, their expressions a mix of confusion and concern. My wife's face had gone pale. Her lips parted slightly, as though she wanted to speak, but couldn't find the words. I've learned something recently, I continued, something that has changed the way I see everything. Trust is fragile, and once it's broken, it's nearly impossible to mend. Someone at the far end of the table shifted in their seat. My wife's hand twitched toward mine, but I didn't move. I kept my focus steady, kept my tone measured, as I laid it all out. The woman I love, the woman I thought I knew, has been unfaithful. My voice didn't waver. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I simply spoke the truth. She betrayed our vows, our trust, and the life we built together. I can't celebrate that, I won't. A collective gasp rippled through the room. Glasses were set down, silverware clinking against plates. My wife's face crumpled, her eyes filling with tears. Please, she whispered, her voice barely audible. Not here, but it was too late. The truth was out, and there was no taking it back. I'm done pretending, I said, my gaze never leaving hers. I'm done living a lie. You wanted a celebration, here it is. This is the reality of our marriage. I set my glass down, the sound sharp in the stunned silence. Then I walked away. I didn't look back at the table, at the faces frozen in shock. I didn't hear her call after me. I just kept moving out the door into the cool night air. The waitin'. My chest finally starting to lift. In the weeks that followed, I started tour build. I filed for divorce. I leaned on the friends and family who stood by me, who offered their unwavering support. He started therapy, working through the pain, the anger, the sense of betrayal. I rediscovered parts of myself that had been buried under years of complacency. Hobbies I'd abandoned, dreams I'd put on hold. Slowly, I began to heal. She reached out a few times, apologizing, asking for another chance. But I knew I couldn't go back. The trust was gone, and without it, there was no foundation for a future. It told her that I hoped she would find her own path, but that mine no longer included her. It wasn't an easy decision, but it was the right one. As the months turned into a year, I found peace in the life I was creating. I started new projects, made new friends, and even began to think about the possibility of love again. Real love built on trust and honesty. The scars from that night didn't disappear, but they faded, becoming a reminder of what I'd overcome looking back. I know I did what I had to do. Exposing her affair at that anniversary party wasn't just about airing the truth. It was about reclaiming my own life, my own narrative. It was about saying, this is who I am, and I won't let anyone diminish that she made her choice. And that night, in front of everyone, I made mean.